Welcome to the next lesson on that programming language. So we have looked at strings, right? We have looked at ways we can manipulate strings and the methods we have in strings. We have even looked at coding it, right? So let's look at numbers. Now, as you know, we have two categories of numbers, right? Numbers are broadly divided into two data types: the integers and the double. Right. Do we have any other type of numbers? Well, in that programming, we have just these two. Right. So this is what we'll be looking at. Now, it says here that numbers can be classified as int. Int refers to integer of arbitrary size. Right. The int data type is used to represent whole numbers. Okay. So I've mentioned this before. The int data type simply refers to whole numbers. Let's see what this means. Arbitrary size. So arbitrary size means something can be any size without any fixed limitation and without any fixed limits or restrictions, varying as needed, often dynamically determined at runtime, unlike fixed size data type. Alright, so numbers of course range from 0 to positive infinity and 0 to negative infinity, right? So there is no highest number and there is no smallest number. That's actually what it means. Okay, so an integer can be very big and also very small. So I hope you understand what that means. It means that 10 trillion, 10 quadrillion, if there's anything like that, is still within the range of an integer. It is still an integer. All right. In the negative direction is the same. So that is what that means. And we also have double. Double refers to 64-bit double precision floating numbers as specified by the IEEE 754 standard. The double data type is used to represent fractional numbers. Now, don't give this too much thought, this part, all right? We just are going to focus on here, on this. It says the double data type is used to represent fractional numbers. All right, that's all you need to know. So let me open my Visual Studio Code. Now this is from one of our previous classes. Okay, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to have to create a new file which I'm going to call numbers.dat. Alright, and okay, numbers already exist. Let me just rename it. So that's numbers. Alright, so as you already know, we have the num data type. Alright, and let me call this my num, my number. I can store anything in this data type. I can store a double. So I can store any number, alright, not anything. I can store any number in this data type. I can store a double, I can store an integer. Alright. So but then this num is actually a super type of two data types, alright, which are the int and the double. Alright, So if I say int, what is an example of an integer? Let's say my age. Int age is equal to is 21. All right, so I initialize age to 21, and then I'll say double weight is 70.0. All right. So these two, int and double, are they are subtypes of num. All right, I hope you understand that. So that's why num can contain an integer and can also contain a double. All right, so let's continue looking at what we have here. So they gave you the syntax for declaring a number. All right, so your number can be either an integer or a double. All right, so this declares an integer value, an integer variable, and this declares a double variable. So let's move on. Now there's something called passing. All right. Okay, let's look at this. We have an integer and a double. All right, and we have this down here. Note the dat VM. VM means virtual machine. All right, so the dat virtual machine will throw an exception if fractional values are assigned to integer values, to integer variables. Okay, so what this simply means is that if I come here and assign an integer to this double, all right, I don't get an error here, and the reason is because if I happen to print weight, I'm going to get 70.0. I'm not going to get 70, just 70. I'm going to get 70.0, right? And this is because 70.0 is equal to 70. You get that? All right. 70.0 is equal to 70. All right. They are the same. So I don't get an error here. But if I try and say and initialize this int to a double, I'm going to get an error. All right. This is not I'm going to have an error here. And what does it say? The value of type double, meaning that this double, all right, this double value can't be assigned to a variable of type int. So this double value cannot be assigned to this variable because this variable is of the type int. All right, so that is what this sentence means. Now let's look at passing. The pass static function allows passing a string containing numerical literal into a number. The following illustration demonstrates the same. Okay, so this is what passing means. All right. As you should know by now, if I have a value, let's say I have a value 12. All right, I have this value. Right now is an int, it's an integer. You can even see it here, type int. All right, but I can easily convert it to a string, and the way to do that is just to wrap it in quotes, in quotation marks, and as you can see, the type has changed from int to string. All right, so I now have a string here. All right, but there's something called a pass function. All right, and this pass function is used to convert strings like this or any type of string, right, to numbers. I don't know if you get it. Let me demonstrate. Now, I have, let me declare a variable, a string variable. I'll call this my string. Alright, so I have this my string. Alright, now if I print my string that's runtime type, if you remember what my what this thing does, it simply tells me the data type of my value right here. All right, so this is my variable. Okay, this is my variable, my string. If I print my string dot runtime type, I'm going to have string because this is actually a string. Let me not print this. All right, because this is actually a string, I'm going to have string. But if it were to be an integer, I'm going to have int. All right, so that is what this property does. It simply tells us what the data type of our value is at runtime. All right, so let's get back to what we wanted to do. Now, I mentioned the pass method, right? And this is how it happens. I'm going to reassign my string to int dot pass my string. Okay, I'm having an error here, and this is because I'm trying to convert. Okay, let me not be too fast. Let me do this here. Now, my string dot runtime type is string, right? It's string. But I can easily convert this to an integer. And this is how to do it. I'll just pass this into an integer. All right. So if I run, it is now an integer. Okay. So this 12 that you're seeing right now is actually an integer now because I have converted this string, all right, with the 12 inside into an integer. That is what this int dot pass means. In the same way, I can convert it into a double, right? And the way to do that is with double dot pass. And here I have 12.0. Right now, this is possible because inside this string, inside here, the characters I have here are actually numbers. All right, the characters I have in this string are actually numbers. If I had a letter, I'm going to have an error trying to pass this into any number, whether int or double. All right, so that is why there is something better than using this function, this pass function, right? And that is try pass. So what this try pass does is it tries to pass your value. All right, it tries to pass your value. Now, if it works, in other words, if I try it on this 12, this 1 and 2, because the characters inside this string are actually numbers. All right, it will work. It's going to work. All right, but if I add a letter, it's just going to give me no. All right, and no simply means, it's returned nothing. That's what no means. No just simply means nothing. So this operation just gave me a default value of null because a is obviously not a number, so I cannot pass a into being a number. All right, I cannot pass this string 12a into being a number because of this a right here. Okay, so the same goes for any characters you might want to add. I'm going to have null. All right. So that is what try pass does. All right. So I first tried with pass. Okay. I just used pass to explain to you what passing actually means, and then I introduced it to try pass, which is a better and more efficient method for passing numbers. So for passing strings into numbers. All right. I can actually do the try pass on double. On sorry, on an integer. All right. So I have int weight. All right. I have this integer weight. All right. We all know it's an int. Okay. But then I can pass it to double. Can I? The argument type int can't be assigned to the parameter type string. All right. I cannot. Right, I cannot, and the reason is because just as I showed you in print statements, the argument print accepts is an object, one object. All right, in the same way the argument this method try pass accepts is a string. Okay, so we cannot pass in a number here, we can only pass in a string. You can only give this try pass function a string to work with. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else. Alright, so I would like to stop here so that in the next class we'll look fully into numbers, number properties and methods. Alright, so thank you very much. I'll see you in the next class.